The good old days when we all had a pension. Remember those days? We need to go back. We need to go back to those times because the 401k is evil. The 401k is a scam. The 401k is bad. We need to go back to the times of the pension funds and how simple it was back then. It was so easy. Ah, I just people. We're always we look back in history with rose-colored glasses. As always we do, because history we know what happened. The future is scary because we don't know what happens. But history we knew, and we say, "Hey, well, it sucked, but we survived it." And we look back and say, "It wasn't that bad." Anyway, so I'm doing my research on CPI, on inflation data, and let me just show what I'm looking at here. It's pretty cool. This is airline fares, CPI. We started BLS started using airline fares and CPI in 1963, and I can look. This is like crack cocaine for me. I love this stuff. All right, so we're going to see if we go down here, the annual change in air flights, and you're going to see a big jump in 1980, 1981, 1982. The reason for that was deregulation. The Civil Aeronautics Board was then, I think, disbanded in 1985, but it was jettisoned essentially in 1978. And the lead on that was Ted Kennedy, of all people. Pretty interesting, actually. So Carter was a big proponent of deregulation. It started happening under Nixon, frankly, and then put forward, and then Carter said, "Yeah, all right, let's keep going with it." Ted Kennedy was the chief guy to get rid of the Civil Aeronautics Board and led to the deregulation of airlines. Anytime you have initial deregulation, by the way, or get rid of price controls, you're always going to have a big jump initially. That's just every single time because whenever there's a price control, it creates this unnatural ceiling, and that ceiling is going to go. It's like a geyser bursting through, like Genesis 7:11. Anyway, and then what happens is you'll see a huge jump, and it's going to come back to Earth. And what's going to happen here is you'll see. Let me just show you the changes right here, and just kind of level. So it went up sharply, went up, and then it started leveling off. And that should be a log. If that was a log scale, that'd be even more dramatic about how the leveling off, if actually not downright decreasing of prices on air. Anyway, so my point being is that what exactly caused this? And it turns out it's the Civil Aeronautics Board. And so I'm looking at the Wikipedia stuff on it, and I came across because a lot of airlines were going bankrupt, and I remember that like it was yesterday. My granddad flew for TWA. They were very worried about bankruptcy, and I just came across this thing with the Penn. Oh, let's see if I can't find it. And I guess I got rid of it. Anyway, the Penn Central Airline. This is the Penn Central Transportation, not airline, railroad. Let me just set the stage. It's crazy. All right, so the Penn Central, by 1978, the company had filed for what was that time the largest bankruptcy in history. In 1970, the Penn Central Transportation Company, incredibly interesting. It was a merger of these New York Central, I don't know what that is, New Haven, I guess, I'm not sure. Anyway, and the Penn Railroad. Crazy. It was the largest bankruptcy in history, and now Enron has replaced as the largest, but gigantic. And I said, what happened to the pensions of that? Because obviously it had a hell of a lot of people. All right, and now the interesting thing is we go down here, I'm going to show you something right now. Facing continued losses from the trucking industry, which had also been deregulated, the railroad industry and its unions asked the federal government for deregulation. The 1980 Staggers Act, which deregulated the railroad industry, proved to be a key factor. Anyways, it was very interesting, the deregulation of under the Democratic Party with Ted Kennedy leading the way and what's his name, Carter. I mean, it began under Nixon and whatnot. It's interesting, man. But anyway, so I said, what happened to the pension? Because it's the largest bankruptcy in history, and it's from the New York Times, 1971. The staff of the Interstate Commerce Commission said today that the former top officers of the Penn Central Transportation Company had probably been guilty of a conflict of interest when they invested funds from the employee pension in stocks they were buying for themselves. One of these investments turned out to be practically worthless and cost the pension almost $1 million, and that's back in 1971. The new study of the events that led to the bankruptcy of the Penn Central in June is the second to have been made to the commission staff. The first focused on alleged financial irregularities. All right, so let's keep going. The manner in which the management implemented or failed to implement the merger produced total chaos in the merged company's operations. That is crazy. Anyway, let's go right here. I'm going to show you the right here. The Penn Central is not even collecting the money it was earning in the period after the merger because incorrect freight bills, double billing, and unpaid bills characterized the company's operations in chaos. The charges of dissipation of the company's assets and possible conflicts of interest center on this guy, David Bevan, who is finance committee head. All right. The study said that Mr. Bevan and Robert Hazlitt, the company's vice president in investments, were able to exercise total control over the investments of the two employee pension funds. One of them a regular fund and the other a fund that provided additional pensions for top officials. The total control, when coupled with a quest for personal profits, as evidenced by the investments for themselves that the two men made, seems to constitute a misuse of pension funds. Anyways, let's take a look here. We're going to go to page 3. The principal one of these purchases, which turned out to be worthless, was $1 million of CBK Industries. The Penn Central Pension Fund recovered less than $10,000. Edwin Taylor, a Penn Central lawyer at the same time as the pension fund, also purchased $56,000 worth of this stock for Mr. Bevan and his family. Interesting. Mr. Bevan apparently had no qualms about utilizing the Penn Central Transportation Company personnel to execute his private purchases. Yeah. The report also disclosed that the employers of a small insurance company, of which Mr. Bevan was also finance chairman, were permitted to join the the Penn Central pension program. The whole thing's crazy. So let's read about what happened to, what's this guy, Devin? Hold on a second. So 2 years later, the SEC brought charges against this guy. Former financial vice president at the Penn Central Railroad broke a long silence today to brand unfair and untrue. He misled the public for personal gain. Look, I don't trust the SEC as far as I can kick him. I'll tell you that right now. I just find it interesting. So what happened? 1977, charges of fraud against two former top officials of the defunct Penn Central Transportation Company were dismissed by a federal judge. David Bevan had been charged with transferring $4 million of Penn Central funds in 1969 to a corporation in Europe, allegedly controlled by a cohort. The trial of the two lawyers, Francis Rosenbaum and Joseph Rosenbaum, who are brothers, will continue. That's kind of funny. I wonder why they were dropped. Anyone want to guess? I think we know why. Because they probably, actually, I don't want to say anything. I don't know. But anyway, fraud prosecution of two is dropped. Let's take it. That was did I just read? What is this right here? Let's see. This is in 1974. When if they testified against the Rosenbaums, I don't know. I just find it interesting nonetheless. Did I just read this? Hold on, let me pause it. The fraud prosecution of two former Penn Central executives accused of diverting more than $100 million from America's biggest railroad is being dropped. And announcing his drop in the matter, the district attorney says, we can't go ahead because we don't have a sufficient case to go to court. David Bevan, who advised Penn Central in financial matters, were accused of schemes that allegedly drained the giant transportation system. I'm sure there's a lot. Right. Oh yeah. So we got Albert Lassiter, a former brigadier general, has schemed to invest $21 million in executive jet aviation. I'm sure where there's smoke, there's fire, but who knows, man? Who knows? I find this interesting. Sins of the father passed down to son or whatnot. Who knows? But this is in 1990. New York, Barronco Corp. New York, a holding company, said David C. Bevan Jr. has resigned as senior vice president for finance administration. That's interesting. Anyway, nothing weird here, and I don't know if these are the same people. I'm just reading this. About 500 shares of Barronco Corp., a New York-based maker of lighting fixtures, got a shock when their banks bounced dividend checks from the company because of insufficient funds. David Bevan, I've never heard this before. It affected about 20% of our stockholders. Yeah, all right. Anyway, the whole point about this. Would you rather have your own mitts on your own money or trust these clowns? You want the 401k plan, at least you have control over how it's invested. You want to put in government bonds, you can put in government bonds. You want to hold it in all stocks, you can hold it in all stocks. You want to put it in cash, you hold it on cash. You want to cash it out and pay the penalty and taxes, you cash out and you pay the penalty and taxes. Do you really want to rely on clowns like that to run your pensions? Hell no, man. Hell no. Give it again, as I said a million times a Sunday. If it weren't for 1K, I would not be here right now doing this gig. The 401k gave me flexibility to quit my crappy old job. Yeah, it cost me taxes and a penalty. So what? Here I am, man. Better man for it. Yeah, don't just look at the histories. Oh, there's so much better back then. It's just silly. All right, we'll see you.